This is What's Happening and Why Astrology, where we look at the big picture transits and put them into place for the month of August. If you want forecasts for your individual sign, check out my monthly AstroDice readings. And if you can, I really appreciate a like, follow, share or subscribe. And remember to hit the notification button if you don't want to miss out on any of my new vids. Here's what is happening and why for August 2023. August is high drama in slow motion, squeezing in 2 full moons and some above average retrograde action. Currently Venus, Saturn, Neptune and Pluto all retrograde, and later in the month Mercury and Uranus go retrograde as well. When planets go retrograde, their influence slows and turns inward. They get to backtrack and clear out the internal stuff, the buried stuff. Their normal expression is flushed through a different lens, and it gets distorted and a bit twisted up. So Mercury goes trickster instead of messenger. In a Neptune retrograde, it's not like you get instant revelation, but Neptune retrogrades can slow you down enough so you can listen to your dreams and your intuition more carefully and make connections that bring about a revelation. So this month we're in our retrograde era, where planets act uncharacteristically and open a potential of different opportunities to present. And that's going to be our yardstick, because August has some very rocky terrain and things aren't quite what they seem. On the eve of the full moon, August begins with the turn of seasons. In the Northern Hemisphere, you're at the end of summer, Lughnasadh, with festivals, dancing and corn dollies to honour the crops of the first harvest. It's also a bit of a wild cut loose time, getting the last bucket-sized gulp of the sun before we instinctively turn inward for autumn. The change in atmosphere is reflected in these planet patterns. The full moon on the 2nd at 9 degrees Aquarius brings a turning point, or at least a definitive adjustment. Something needs to come to an end, and you might need to step off a soapbox or reach out for a new attitude to make this happen. With that Aquarian moon, Pluto is square the nodes, who are newly moved into the Libra-Aries axis. This is like a crisis of personal leadership, indecision about something that's unavoidable, an inner conflict where you have to look at what you're fighting for. War. What is it good for? At the same time, Mercury at 5 degrees Virgo is opposite retrograde Saturn. And this says you've been here before. Same conversation with the same outcome. There are limits on the situation now and a balance needs to be struck. Although it's the end of the road for something, there might be a compromise in the interim. Be receptive to good advice and don't expect a full resolution on this till after September, when all this retro mood starts turning forward. To help with that, Venus, Neptune and the nodes are sending someone or something that helps unravel a fantasy, release a lost hope, or adjust your direction in a more authentic position. All these guys are retrograde. Also in Virgo, Mars is 13 degrees with Pallas Athena just behind, and Jupiter's beaming in from fellow Earth sign Taurus. Maybe there's a truce or a vindication. A promise gets followed through. Mars, Pallas and Jupiter call for reason and clear judgment, to steer towards the high moral ground rather than your base instincts. Oh, and grab the details now before Mercury goes retrograde on the 23rd. Get things in writing. This little playoff from the full moon sets the tone for the rest of August. Venus is retrograde in Leo, and she's activating a series of cluster bombs on her way backwards. She clashes with Uranus between the 7th and the 11th, goes cazimi with the Sun on the 14th, and then squares off against Jupiter on the 22nd and 24th. When Venus is retrograde and therefore not visible in the sky, the story is she's visiting the underworld and has to relinquish all of her jewels, her crown, her clothes, and even her hair, skin and bones and soul to make the journey into the underworld. When the retrograde is finished, she makes her way from behind the Sun to be freshly reborn in the morning sky. With this in mind, it looks like interference from Uranus in the second week of August is enough to crack through a veneer, reveal a pain point, or set off a release that strips you back. You could be resetting a balance in relationships, a money situation, or a source of shame and inequality, a prison of your own making. You could be in for a surprise attraction, an electric flash insight into a connection, or something you thought that was a new path is starting to look like a repeat pattern. This Venus in the underworld thing is valid for all signs, but Taurus, Leo, Scorp and Aqua, you're heavily in it. The cazimi, where Venus is blotted out fully by the Sun, is on the 14th. And by the 16th, the Moon joins in and it's a new moon in Leo. And sorry, Leo, it's not much of a party. Or it might be a party where the lion's off the leash and the circus gets called in. The Venus cazimi can have you feeling overlooked or diminished somehow. And again, the fixed signs Leo, Aquarius, Scorp and Taurus take a hit. And you might want to rein yourself in a bit to decompress. This is the part where Venus is in the underworld, letting go to become reborn. She's sensitive and at her most vulnerable, and likely to strike down anyone who trips over her in this state. Uranus is in Taurus, and it's square the new moon. When Uranus is square, it feels trapped and frustrated. The authority and leadership issue that came up at the last moon phase gets poked and tested. Reactions can be unpredictable and lightning fast. Mars is in Virgo, trine Uranus for that new moon. This is the lion off the leash. The circus is in town and it's quite a show. In tarot, this would be the strength card. Harnessing your power with courage and skill so you don't let the monster out of the bag. On the other side of the world with that Leo new moon, we in the Southern Hemisphere celebrate Imbolc, the first light at the end of winter, and the opposite pair to Lunarsar's end of summer. It's a beautiful ritual and my favourite one, the Feast of the Waxing Light. It's been pretty tense and wobbly for most of August, but in that last week, the tension loosens and in some cases gets driven underground. Mercury turns retrograde in Virgo on the 23rd, so there'll be lots of time to go back over things, get confused and regroup. The same time that Mercury turns retrograde, Venus is still dragging backwards through the hedgerow, and between the 22nd and the 24th, she's doing her square with Jupiter. And this will churn up all your feels about money, position and relevance. Things you want are in short supply. So maybe you get versatile or make a plan or sit in that place and have a rethink if what you want is what you need. Once Venus turns forward, she emerges from her tour of the underworld as the morning star. Fierce renewal, reborn, factory reset. She revisits this aspect with Jupiter mid-September and will also cross over Uranus at the end of September. And by then you'll have adapted and resolved any of these limitations, or you will have moved on. These last few days of the month can still turn up surprise visitors or an unexpected change of plans, computer and technology glitches, or a sudden mental audit of what's missing off your bucket list. Mars moves into Libra on the 27th, where it channels the balance for more fun, social life, art and romance. And Uranus turns retrograde on the 28th, putting even more whirlpool on plans and structures and things you thought you had in place. The retrogrades are hoovering up all the sagas of the month and synthesizing them into something useful for you to use. Just to squeeze the last bit out of the August planetary climate, we get a second full moon to really get down to business and open your heart. This is a moon you'll be able to talk it through, find some common ground, or redraw the goals. August 31 is the Pisces full moon. The energy is fluid and sensitive, and not only taps into the watery realms of your dreams and your unconscious, but that sense of beauty that is part of being the great collective. The moon in Pisces is joined by retrograde Saturn, and Mars is in Libra, forming a quincunx to this. It helps you find different ways and adjust to resolving a conflict, and where actions and promises got a bit stifled or a bit skewed. Saturn asks for better boundaries, but in this position, the boundaries dissolve a bit and it can leave you feeling unprotected. Or it can help you redefine what it is you want and open up any part of you that needs to share that vulnerability in a safe space. Jupiter and Mercury are in a really good place for this second full moon as well. And that gives more optimistic communication. It helps you reset those plans and reset expectations. By the end of August, you might find your dreams or your goals or your plans have had a real swing. And this one helps you look at where you want to commit and where you want to grow. The message is for August that everything's in a bit of a time warp. You're looking through distorted glass and you have to swing it into focus. Have patience and do the dance till you've got strength and mastery. Use your grace, use your experience. The true strength is going to be drawn from within yourself by knowing who you are and not needing to justify that. I'm Meryl Key, and this is my mystery school. Thanks for watching, and thank you for your like, follow, shares and subscribes. Find me on Instagram at my_mystery school or on my website www.merylkey.com. See you next time.